Hey guys, welcome back to DC Extra. My name is Chris. Today we're going to be breaking down the Flash movie. Before we get into it, needless to say, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you have not seen the movie, make sure you do so first, and then come back and watch this video. Anyway, let's get straight into it. This movie starts off in a coffee shop, where Barry is running late for work. However, that's the least of his worries, when he gets a call from Alfred to help Batman with the situation in Gotham City. So, through an awesome sequence, we see Barry run to Gotham City, where he saves people at a hospital that is collapsing in on itself, while Bruce, still Ben Affleck for now, chases the people responsible, that being Falcone's son, who stole a deadly virus from the hospital. And this confirms the existence of Carmine Falcone in the DCEU, who is a notorious crime boss in the comics. The east wing of the hospital starts to collapse, and a room of babies and a hospital employee rains down towards the floor in a baby shower. Little on the nose, but it's quite literally a baby shower. So in order to save everyone, Barry has to run up the side of the building and then catch them. However, Barry is running low on energy, so he has to get a quick snack first, and this gives him enough speed to then knock out some dangerous objects away from the babies and line them all up so he can catch them on a gurney. Oh, and he puts a baby in a microwave. There's actually a reason for this given later on, but we'll get more to that later. Batman uses a variety of cool tech when chasing the criminals, but eventually has to ditch his bike after his path is obstructed. And this scene actually kind of reminded me of the Penguin chase from the Batman, where the Batmobile comes through the fire. Eventually Batman catches up to the criminals after grappling onto their truck, but it runs off the road and Batman must prevent the virus from falling into the water below. He attempts to climb up using his grapple gun, but the additional weight appears to be too much strain. But luckily, Wonder Woman arrives to save the day, with Gal Gadot reprising her role. Barry eventually gets to work at CCPD, but his boss tells him to work faster, which is incredibly ironic given who he is talking to. Iris comes up to Barry after she notices him while reporting at CCPD. Iris says that she remembers seeing Barry a few years ago, referencing the events of Zack Snyder's Justice League. But Barry denies this because it would mean giving away his secret identity. Iris tries to get info out of Barry for the upcoming appeal for his father's case. But this angers Barry, so he goes home where an envelope is waiting for him. In this envelope is a USB drive which shows security tape from the store which proves as Henry's alibi. But his father doesn't look towards the camera, making it impossible for this to provide evidence of his innocence. Barry runs over to his old childhood home, reminiscing of his childhood, where we see a flashback where he works on some homework and his mother tells him that not every problem has a solution, and that sometimes you have to let go, which is a key lesson for him to remember, as it will be used later on in the movie. Nora asks Henry to go to the store to get some tomatoes, which she forgot, and this store is the place where the security footage was grabbed from. Later in the day, Nora screams after being stabbed. Henry goes to help her, telling Barry to call 911. But that is where the flashback ends. But as we know, his mother dies, and his father is accused of her murder. Now filled with sadness and reminiscing about the past, Barry runs and accidentally travels back in time, to earlier on in the day, when he was in Gotham City. While he runs, we see his surroundings fade into a blur, applying the effects of length contraction, indicating that he is travelling close to, if not over, the speed of light. And we actually get Bruce explaining this a bit later on. After running for a while, Barry enters what is the Speed Force, and enters a state where he can essentially reverse time by running backwards. Then he can stop at any point, and then enter that particular moment in time. Barry tells Bruce about his time travel, similar to the time he did it in Pojanov, which is again a reference to Zack Snyder's Justice League, as the time travel scene didn't take place in the 2017 film. Here Bruce says that in order to travel back in time, he must be travelling faster than the speed of light, which I alluded to earlier. Bruce warns Barry about the consequences of travelling back in time, and any interactions that he has with the past, how that could screw up reality. Iris shows up to Barry's apartment, but as a friend this time, not as a reporter. Barry speed cleans his room to impress Iris, but this falls apart as he stuffed all the trash into a cupboard. When Iris asks for a beer, and Barry doesn't have one, he phases through the wall into his neighbour's apartment and takes a couple from them. And this is the first time we see Barry phase in the DCEU, so it is actually quite an important moment. While having a conversation with Iris, Barry realises that if he were to go back in time and subtly change events without interacting with anyone, that might be able to fix things. So he does just that, travelling back in time to when his mother was at the store earlier in the day, placing the tomatoes she forgot in her trolley, then running back to the present, he sees history changed. But before he reaches the present, Barry is knocked out of the Speed Force by a speedster with purple lightning. Barry goes into his old home to find his mother alive and well, as well as his father out of prison. While having dinner, Barry from this time shows up and says he is 18, which is quite a bit younger than our original timeline's Barry, considering he is 31, if the movie is set in the year 2023. Also, just to make things a bit clearer from here on out, I will be referring to the older Barry as Prime Barry, given he came from the original timeline, and the younger Barry as Young Barry, given he's a younger. Prime Barry tells Young Barry about what happened to him to get stuck here, and Young Barry acts like a child and finds humour in this. When Prime Barry hears a thunderstorm, he realises that this is the day that he gets his powers. And if Young Barry doesn't get the powers, then Prime Barry will never travel back in time, which in theory makes sense, but as will be explained in a little while, it is actually flawed logic, as this is not how the time travel works in this movie. However, Young Barry freaks out that he will have to get struck by lightning, and Prime Barry holds him in place when the lightning hits, going through Prime Barry into Young Barry, which gives Young Barry speed, but also removes the powers from Prime Barry. Young Barry tries to phase, and when he does this, phases right through the floor into his neighbour's apartment, and his clothes are left upstairs, so yeah, I'm sure you can imagine what's going on downstairs. Prime gives Young Barry the flash ring, which houses the suit which we saw Bruce give to him in the comic series. And if you want to learn more about the comic series, I will link a video now that will take you to that video. Prime says that he needs Young Barry's help to get back into the Speed Force to go back to the future. And this line makes Young Barry remember the movie Back to the Future, and he says that he loves Eric Stoltz's performance in that movie, which Prime Barry corrects him to say, "Did you mean Michael J. Fox?" But as we will learn, this is actually a change that occurred due to Barry's time travel. So instead of Michael J. Fox playing Marty McFly in the movie, we actually have Eric Stoltz playing Marty McFly. When commotion occurs in the street, Prime Barry realizes that Zod has come in the same fashion that he did in Man of Steel. Barry explains that what happened when Zod attacked in Man of Steel, and how he attempted to save a child and his father, but only managed to get the kid in time, feeling as though he failed. We see Barry's first prototype suit here, the one before we saw in Justice League. Barry plans to find the rest of the Justice League to prevent Zod's attack from happening in the first place, saving countless lives. However, when looking for Victor, he realizes that he hasn't become Cyborg yet, and that Wonder Woman and Aquaman do not exist. Seeing that these characters don't exist, Barry realizes that he has created a world without metahumans. But because Batman isn't a metahuman, he realizes that Batman still exists and can go get his help.
I'm Batman.
So both Barrys go off to Wayne Manor to find Bruce. After searching the manor for a while, they find him, but he's a little less than welcoming. They eventually get the chance to explain themselves, and Bruce says how time travel works in this universe. It doesn't just branch off at a certain point, but it creates a whole new timeline.
When you go back and change the past, you create a fulcrum. You put yourself on a whole nother strand of spaghetti. New future, new path. It's retrocausal. It goes both ways. Actually, it goes many ways.
Anyway, Bruce says in this universe that Gotham is a safe city, and it doesn't need Batman anymore. So he refuses to help them. Instead, the Barrys go to the Batcave to use his tech to find this world's Superman, as he is the only person that is able to stop Zod. After reminding Bruce of his parents, he decides to help Barry in finding Superman, and we see a variety of different suits including one from the 1989 movie. Bruce manages to track Superman to Russia, so they take the Batwing to the prison where he's being held, and when they arrive there, we hear the original Batman theme from the 1989 movie. They then break into the prison, fighting their way through some guards to get to the chamber where Superman is being held. However, when they get there, they discover that it's in fact not Superman, but in fact Kara Zor-El, who is Superman's cousin that was being held there. Regardless, they rescue her and fight their way out of the prison to get back to Wayne Manor. Upon returning, they put Kara into the sunlight so she can recharge her powers. However, when young Barry asks for her help, she refuses because she thinks that all humans are evil because of the way she was locked away by the Russians. When she finds Zod, she sees the way he slaughters the humans because they didn't give him Kara. In that moment, she realizes that she made a mistake abandoning Bruce and the Barrys. Meanwhile, Prime Barry attempts to recreate the experiment that gave him his powers, using a lightning storm to strike him. The lightning does successfully strike him, but they stop the experiment too soon as they were worried about hurting Barry. So he doesn't get his powers and is hurt quite badly. Luckily, Kara returns and flies Barry into the air, getting him struck by lightning again. This time it works, and the wounds heal themselves due to his accelerated healing. Now, because Prime Barry has his powers back, young Barry makes himself a new suit, repurposing an old bat suit. Now with the whole team together, they go bring the fight to Zod and his army, with Kara taking on Zod, Batman using the Batwing to take down the ships, while both Barrys take on the rest of the army. After failing to take down the Kryptonians individually, the Barrys work together to take them down, creating a tornado and then kicking the Kryptonian from inside the tornado. However, Batman and Supergirl don't have the same luck, as Batman dies in an attempt to take down a Kryptonian ship, and Zod stabs Kara, killing her also. Young Barry decides that they should travel back in time, try to do things again. However, it doesn't work as intended, as they still both die, just in different ways. Young Barry wants to go back again to try once more, but Prime realizes that their deaths are a fixed point that cannot be changed. Prime Barry tells young Barry that he needs to give up, because not every problem has a solution, which is the lesson he learnt from his mother before she died, and that he needs to go back and reverse the change he made to the timeline initially, thus killing his mother. Eventually, the speedster from the beginning of the film appears and explains who he is, that being young Barry from the future, where he tried time and time again to save Kara and Bruce, but failed, harming the timeline in the process. And this harm actually causes multiple universes to collide with each other. In this scene, we see a variety of cameos from across different DC media. Firstly, we see George Reeves as Superman, followed by Teddy Sears as Jay Garrick, who played Zoom in the Flash TV series. In my opinion, this should have been John Wesley Shipp or Grant Gustin, but I guess this is a cool cameo also. We also see Christopher Reeves as Superman, accompanied by Helen Slate as Supergirl. And some people have been criticizing the way they have brought back someone who has passed away since his time playing Superman, but personally I like the way this honoured his portrayal of the character. We also see Adam West's Batman, along with Nicolas Cage as Superman, which isn't from anything but was just added there anyway. Prime Barry realizes that he has to stop Dark Flash, but when attacked, young Barry sacrifices himself, because this would mean that Dark Flash never existed. And this works, bringing the colliding worlds back to their natural states. With Dark Flash gone, Barry is free to fix the mistake he made, and goes back in time to the day his mum was supposed to die, and fixes the change he made to the timeline. However, he does make one small change, moving the can of tomatoes to a higher shelf in the store, so that his father's face is shown in the security tape this time. This evidence is now usable to prove his innocence of Nora's murder. The movie then ends with Barry outside of the courthouse, where he asks Iris out on a date, and then Bruce Wayne appears to congratulate winning the case. But it's not the same Bruce we remember, and this time it is played by none other than George Clooney. There is also an end credit scene afterwards, where Barry and Arthur Curry as Aquaman talk, but there isn't really anything important said here. It's mainly Arthur being drunk and Barry explaining his adventures from throughout the movie. Anyway, that is the entirety of the movie. I hope you did enjoy this breakdown. I might do some more videos regarding the movie, such as explaining the timeline lore, and maybe some other videos that I come up with that I think might be interesting to you guys. But anyway, let me know what you thought about this movie in the comments below. But until next time, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing ya.